Mabuhay! It's Lady Midari. We're now at episode 13 of ReDraw with me. And based from all your responses, the Black Cat Lady wins. I drew both Nell and Yoruichi before because they were two of the strongest ones out there who had other vulnerable forms in Bleach. So before I discuss who Yoruichi Shihoin is, let me tell you that she's only one of my favorite Shinigami in Bleach. My favorite male character is Hitsugaya Toshiro. Yes, the little white-haired guy who is now the captain of the 10th Division and who wields ice. The other female character I like are Rukia. Yes, another Shinigami who wields ice and whom I ship with Ichigo. And Neliel, who is a former member of the Espada. So before I move forward in discussing the romantic relationships in Shonen by series, we all know how they go. That the romance is just part of the quest and not to be the main selling point of the genre. It's part of it, sure, but it's on the side and it could be subtle or very obvious that fans could catch on. This is where ships are made. They could sail or sink depending on where the story goes. Some series were able to put this up well without pressure by the end of the series, like Naruto and Full Metal Alchemist. Let's first talk about Naruto. Naruto first had a crush on Sakura, and Sakura had a crush on Sasuke. And the whole series didn't feel like it was a love triangle or anything because we were all focused on Naruto's journey on how to get back his friend who was led astray. Sure, there were instances where we could see Sakura or Hinata blushing when their crushes were nearby, but they were mostly on the sides. Naruto the last movie made it canon where Hinata's feelings finally reached Naruto, even though she did already confess in the series after Pain's attack. But of course, Naruto couldn't process it with all that's been happening. To be honest, I haven't even watched Boruto because of the bad reviews I'm seeing in the internet, probably similar to Yashahime. So in order to save me from getting frustrated in comparing them to their parents, I'm having second thoughts whether I'd watch them. I'll probably watch the first episode or so, but if it didn't make me feel interested or anything, I'd skip it. Now let's move on to Sasuke and Sakura, in which Sakura confessed to Sasuke at probably the wrong moment. But she hopes it would stop him from going rogue. At Naruto Shippuden, she confesses again, but to Naruto this time. After Sai tells her that it was her promise that made Naruto kept chasing after Sasuke. But we all know that's not the case. It's not only Naruto's promise to Sakura that kept him going. He also wanted Sasuke to return. After their huge fight with Kaguya, where the trio was fighting all together, only then did Sasuke manage to finally acknowledge Sakura's presence and perhaps her love for him. What makes it fresh and different from one another is both boys are either oblivious or indifferent with what the other party was feeling at the moment because it wasn't part of their goals, and probably not at the right time. early access of ReDraw with me is available in my Ko-fi. Just go to ko-fi.com/ladymidori and go to my tip jar. You can choose two options. One is to give a one-time payment, and two is to choose monthly subscription for me to continue making contents like this. Full high-resolution image will be available for download to whatever art is shown in the episode. Missed a previous fan art I featured in my YouTube video or in my Ko-fi? No worries. Head over to my Ko-fi shop. Link is in the description below. And purchase any of my previous art mentioned in the video. Simply send me a message with a screenshot of which art you want to purchase so I can upload it and send it over to you. Now let's get back to the video. As for Full Metal Alchemist ships, let's first talk about Edwin. The two of them, along with Al, have been childhood friends. So they have come a long way, and Winry knew about what happened to the brothers, and of course, she is also their personal automail mechanic. They would come by to meet her so often to get Ed's automail checked and maintained. Winry would be frustrated, especially if she finds out how Ed's automail or Al's armor end up after a battle. It would worry her, but she refuses to show it to the siblings. They would end up having a banter about how they ended up like that, or how Ed refused to drink milk. Along the series, fans get to see how all of them grow, not only mentally, but also physically. At the end of the Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood series, did Ed propose to Winry? However, he was such a nerd about it and used his terminology with the knowledge of alchemy. You'd have to watch it to get it. Now, while I was searching for more Full Metal Alchemist ships, I was supposed to jump in Roy I, but then I came across Al and May, and I was like, what? I think I have to watch Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood again to see that they had a thing. I mean, I didn't really see that because May is basically a kid. But reading further made me realize she wasn't. May had a growth spurt, probably similar to Ed at their younger years. Thus, she looked smaller than her age. There were scenes that show that they'd protect one another during a battle, or May being all excited and sparkly whenever Al is nearby. When Al managed to get his body back, it was shown that May embraced him. And let's move forward to the adults. Roy I. Why was it even called that way? So, based on a Tumblr post made by just Roy I, it seems that I comes from English transliteration of how Riza's name is spelled in Japanese. Hawkeye. So the last two letters were taken out, so it's just I, which means love in Japanese. In short, the ship name for Roy and Riza ends up being called Roy I. Now, moving forward, these two had deep relationship ever since Master Hawkeye passed on. Master Hawkeye mentored Roy with his flame alchemy, was Riza's late father. He believed Roy is still naive that time, so he engraved a tattoo of the transmutation array at the back of his daughter. After that, they went separate ways, but met again during the Ishbalian War. Riza asked if Roy could erase the transmutation array on her back, but he refuses to do so. Instead, he made her his trusted and loyal comrade. Ever since they both joined the military, they've got each other's backs. They would often be seen teasing one another and be reckless when the other is hurt. When Bradley even took his men to be located elsewhere and brought Riza near him as a hostage, I can remember Roy calling Riza his queen. Now tell me that isn't canon. So, are you seeing what I'm seeing about their similarities? They all have progress with one another. They have scenes together, and not just one or two scenes, and it's very obvious. They also share how they deeply care for one another when the other is in danger or when they worry about the other party. One of the other shapes that have strong bonds besides Ichiruki is Urayoru, who is Urahara Kisuke and Yoruichi Shihoin. Yes, the cat lady in this drawing. It was also never confirmed in the series what their relationship was, but the only similarities I could gather was that they are childhood friends as Kisuke grew up under the Shihoin mansion. And Yoruichi recommended Kisuke as a captain of the 12th Division. Years later, Kisuke and his division was investigating a huge amount of disappearing souls. There was a report that the Ryatsu team disappeared and Kisuke requested Yamamoto to go on site. However, he was denied to do so. Kisuke went anyways along with Tessai and found Aizen and other two Shinigami who were targeting Captain Hirako and the other 7 Shinigami. Aizen and the others managed to escape while Kisuke and Tessai were captured. They were sentenced to be stripped of their Shinigami powers and be exiled in the human world. The next day, Yoruichi helped them escape along with the 8 Shinigami who were in the process of hollowification. Yoruichi left her titles and positions to be a free, roaming cat, perhaps living with Kisuke and the others in the human world. Now let's move on to Ichiruki. I feel like Kubo did not do it intentionally because his health was deteriorating, plus other factors to consider like the popularity of the series or editorial pressure. I believe I read somewhere that Kubo did base Rukia from his ex, probably why he didn't let Ichigo end up with Rukia. I would place the article link here if I'd found it. So I might end up ranting here why I prefer Rukia over Orihime, and you might think I'm one of those toxic shippers out there. Well, no. I've accepted the fact that they aren't together. I'm just disappointed because there were hints that their bond is more than that. You can check the video here made by Camille's Harem entitled Ichiruki Writer's Analysis. Lars made some points on how Ichiruki shippers see the ship not because of their time spent together, but because it's more than that. Kubo knew what he was doing, showing how Rukia is in par with Ichigo, in which I remember that Rukia was supposedly the main protagonist of the series. So that must be one of the reasons why. Besides, why would they address them as Death and Strawberry, Sun and Moon? I get it. Their relationship could be seen as siblings or could be platonic. We don't see them get embarrassed when they're together and they just banter one another or be there for the other when they're up or down. Maybe I'm just one of the shippers who are delulu into thinking they'd end up together. Although Orihime, based on her name, personality, and powers, she is the typical damsel in distress and mostly is there for fan service. Similar to the other women in Bleach, like Matsumoto if you get what I mean. Some have also argued about there being a Shinigami and a human being, but they never point out when it's a demon and a human being or a god and a human being. Do you get what I mean? For me, whoever or whatever species they belong to, if they're meant to be, then they're meant to be because the creator says so. Now let's move to Yoruichi. Surely if you've watched Bleach, she is usually paired up with Kisuke. Though they are not canon, fandom ships them and calls them friends with benefits. Probably because of their teasing and probably more than that. Although they don't banter as much as Ichiruki, their trust with one another is on a different level. Kisuke can even activate Yoruichi's Flash Warcry, Thunder Beast Battle Form, Flash God Black Cat Warrior Princess alone. Listen to that. Alone. So he basically owns her when she's in that state, though it also depends on her mood. Outside Soul Society, I think they're one of the strongest pair. I've only seen Kisuke's Bankai once and he barely uses most of his powers because of his intellect and inventions. Besides that, I also love the idea that both their birthdays were holidays and consecutive. Kisuke is on December 31st and Yoruichi's is on January 1st. There are no scenes as to what their relationship is. They're not like Ichiruki, where there is a bond and we get to see them in action. We only see them when Ichigo and the others need them. We just got a glimpse of their past on how they became an outcast from Soul Society. Imagine getting kicked out for helping your fellow captain and its crew from turning into hollows. But then again, if it wasn't Aizen's brilliant plan, then they wouldn't be living peacefully in Karakura town. I've mostly seen them on fan art, but there are also canon art where they are together. Perhaps in a trading card, I think, where they wore casual clothes. I mean, Ichigo and Rukia did have some photos together as the actual art, yet they aren't canon, so... Anyway, I'm going to keep being salty about this because most of my ships in Bleach didn't sail. There are also ships like Matsumoto and Jin because they seem to have some past together, but it's sad that they have different morals. Toshiro with Momo because like the rest of them, they also have a past together, like their childhood friends. It's also obvious in the Soul Society arc when it was revealed that Aizen used Momo for his plans. Well, he mostly used all of them, that's how far ahead he's thinking, but not as smart as Kisuke. To go against Toshiro, he did struggle to face her but knew fully well. That's why I love him. He's so smart and so adorable. That Momo isn't in her right senses when he did face Toshiro and because he also knew she adores Aizen. to the fact that she became a traitor for a moment without realizing it. This could just be a one-sided relationship since Toshiro seems very overprotective of Momo on most times. Well, probably because Kubo doesn't want to write something romantic with his characters or because they're shonen. But like I said, there are some shonen who are good at showing the progress of the canon ships. They are not forced or ended up leaving the fandom questioning why it ended up that way. I mean, if Kubo was building Ichihime from the beginning, then he should have made more big scenes for them to interact and bond. The Arankar arc wasn't it. Why? Orihime didn't push Ichigo to his finest during his battle with Grimjaw. In fact, she was scared of his hollow side, most likely because of what happened to her brother. And Ichigo had to hold back because of her. Sure, she is built very different from Rukia when it comes to being honest with Ichigo. But I just don't sense anything to their chemistry and bond except that Orihime just fits to be the male lead's partner because of her body. But it's already finished and the Ichiruki fans are just disappointed with how everything went. We would just be reading fanfiction or enjoy the Ichiruki fan arts out there to satisfy what we didn't get from the ending. So yeah, just a reminder, when you ship someone in shonen, just don't expect them to end up together just because of the small scenes they have together, as we never know what the creator is thinking. It's okay to ship just as long as it's not toxic. That we end up having a war with the other fandom just because the ship we vote for didn't sail. And here's the final artwork for ReDraw with Me featuring Yoruichi, both her human and her cat form. Although I didn't redraw the exact pose she has in my original fan art, I feel like I need to make sense on what I want to feel when looking at her. Want to know which drawing should I redraw next? Click the subscribe button so you get updated and answer on the next poll. I'm excited to see which you would choose next. See you in my next video.